Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Join me, Courtney Lewis,
And me, Carly Ferguson,
in our conversational podcast about everyday situations.
You can count on us to tell it to you straight with our own sisterly spin.
Consider this a phone call with your own Southern sisters as we discuss with you personal accountability, healthy relationships, managing responsibilities, and contributing to society.
Each episode will consist of straight talk and a call to action.
Your sisters are calling.
Thanks for answering.
Welcome to Hey Sister. This is episode 6, Happy Pants.
Do you remember when you were home from college and we were in the kitchen with Mom, and I think Cassidy may or may not have been there too? We were talking and I was complaining about these stupid kids in my freshman class in high school and how ridiculous they were being. I was going on and on about it, as teenage girls do. And Mom, in her wise motherly wisdom, turned to me as we sat with our booties in the oven because it was so cold. So we're sitting next to each other and she's like, Carly, you need to just tell them to get happy in the same pants they got mad in. So I was like, Mom, they're going to think that's dirty. I can't say that.
I absolutely remember that because my favorite part of that story was not my favorite. It was actually my least favorite in the moment. You and Mom were hogging the oven because for some reason we always stood like that in the kitchen. I don't know.
It was too cold.
It was cold. Yes. Texas winters are surprisingly cold. And you and Mom were
just
hogging.
Wimps.
Yeah, y'all were hogging the oven and I wanted to stand against the oven door with my buns warming in the oven as well. Anyway, but I do remember that phrase, happy pants. And I remember when Mom told you to tell them to get happy in the same pants they got mad in. You thought that wasn't going to work. And so you stormed off kind of angrily that she stole the thunder of your story. So then the oven opened up and I got to go warm my buns in the oven.
You had happy pants then, didn't you?
Then I had my full happy pants. But there is one sister, the youngest one, as you mentioned, who continually has her happy pants on. And we are excited to have that sister with us today. Cassidy Roberts is with us. And she's especially happy right now because she just recently got married. So we're excited for her in that area. Cassidy, welcome to Hey Sister, where you belong.
Glad to be where I belong with my sisters.
Hey, sister.
Hey, sister. All right, Cass, we wanted to ask you to recount for all of our sisters the story of your Price is Right experience.
The story of my Price is Right experience begins with not much sleep, a lot of Diet Mountain Dew, and a singular protein bar. So I was pretty pumped up as it was, and I had my happy pants on, full fastened, buckled up, ready to go. I was jumping around from basically place to place, and apparently people on The Price is Right really like that kind of energy. I was asked a little bit about myself, and I volunteered the information that my spirit animal was a sloth, and I like to hip hop dance. And apparently that was all they needed to hear.
But if I can interrupt, I remember something from this because they went through and they asked every single person in the line just something really quick. And they'd asked Courtney and I something and we were like, yeah, hi. We said something that we thought was really clever. And they get to you and he notices your necklace and he's like, I like your necklace because you had that sloth necklace. You were like, oh yeah, spirit animal. He said something about that movie with the animals, Zootopia. And here everybody else is just all hyped. And we just have this crazy nervous energy going on in this line. And Cassidy goes into full on sloth mode and reenacts the scene from Zootopia there. Time stopped as Cassidy became a sloth. And it was like, how did she do that? And then everyone in the line just like mutually agreed, she is perfect, golden, she's going on. It was just like everyone couldn't believe what they were beholding and her prowess at harnessing the comedy to be able to slow down in a moment that everybody was so charged. So I just had to say that part because as like a third party bystander, I was amazed and I was like, that's my sister.
Picture a hummingbird stop moving in mid-flight. Like literally that's what it felt like. She went into full on sloth mode. And don't you remember the guy who was doing the interviews? Stu, I think was his name. Or Stan. It was Stan.
I believe you.
Stan the man. Stan was like, I know that movie. And literally he went into sloth mode too. Don't you remember, Car? Both of them.
But I think he like stopped even short of it, but continued watching Cassidy. It was great. So continue from there, Cass.
The energy Price is Right was very high energy. Obviously, it's Price is Right. And I am cheering, super excited with my sisters and with my mom. We're on third row and it's time for them to start calling names. And they have a poster board there because they know that people are crazy enough and excited enough that if they get too wrapped up in the energy and the excitement of the moment, they're going to miss their name getting called. So they just have your name in these big black letters. And so I'm super excited. I'm pumped up. I'm screaming and hollering with my mom and with my sisters. And as I look down, I see my name in big black letters. That was the point whenever my soul just kind of left my body for a minute and I just floated on my way down, because I did come on down, but I just came on down without my brain. Everything was just fight or flight instinct by that point. And so I'm there on The Price is Right. I'm pumped up. Drew Carey asked the price for a foosball table. And I looked to my sisters and my mom because they are so much more knowledgeable on different prices of things than I was. And as I said before, my brain has left my body by this point and I am just floating. I look to them and they say $550. So I said $550. The person next to me said $650. The person next to them said $651. The person next to them said $652. So at this point, I'm doubting my bid as far as, I probably am way under. However, I hear Drew Carey say, actual retail price, $600. Cassidy, come up. And so I start to make my way down and I'm running up the stairs and I'm so excited. And as I get to the last step to enter into the joyous union of me and Drew Carey, I trip coming up the last step and I fall flat on my face. But I was so pumped with adrenaline and I was so excited in my happy pants that I did a push up and I was back up. And then I went and then I jumped on Drew Carey.
I'm just picturing it all again in my head.
All true. This is all true. This happened.
And this was right after Cassidy had graduated. So she's fresh out of high school, getting on stage. When Cassidy says she gets up on stage, she wasn't walking up. She was dancing. She's in her happy pants and dancing shoes all the time. That was so surreal. Watch all that unravel. All right, Cassidy. So you get on stage with Drew Carey, and then what?
After I made it on stage with Drew Carey, he proceeds to ask me where I'm from. He saw my shirt that I was from Texas, but he says, "Oh, so you're from Texas?" And I said, "Yes, I'm from Dallas, Texas." And then he said, "That's a cool shirt." And I said, "Yes, I know. I love it," because I love everything. At this point, you could ask me about what the weather is. And I'm like, "I don't know, but I love the weather. The weather's wonderful." But after that, they open up the curtains to this game that we're going to be playing. And it's called Do the Math. And he says, "Cassie, are you any good at math?" And I said, "No, I almost failed," because I just volunteered this information just completely haphazardly. He says, "Don't worry, this is super easy math." He said, "You're going to figure out the cost of this refrigerator plus or minus $600 equals the cost of this TV." And he throws a bunch of random names and numbers and stuff before the TV, like Ultra HD, GT, LG TV. And you're like, I don't know what you're saying right now. All I know is it's TV and it's a refrigerator. He says it's the cost of the refrigerator plus or minus $600 equals the cost of the TV. I look to the audience and everybody in the audience is saying plus. Most importantly, my mom and my sisters are saying plus. So I take their word for everything. And so I say, "I believe it is plus." And then they draw the curtain and they say that the cost of the TV was $3,200, to which I look at everybody in the audience and everyone in the audience has this look of concern on their face. Ooh, that's a pricey TV. I do not remember TVs being that expensive. And so then we figure out the math and turns out the cost of the refrigerator was minus $600.
Sorry.
The TV was not acquired, neither was the fridge, but we still had the exciting prospects of spinning the wheel. I went behind the stage, sat there for a bit and waited. But by sitting there, I wasn't really sitting there. I was dancing. I was just hopping back and forth. And then it comes time for us to spin the wheel. And I spin the wheel and they start asking me to say hello to all of the people that I want to say hello to. I start saying hi to my sisters in the audience and my mom, how grateful I am for them. I say hi to my best friend back at home. And very breathlessly at the end, I said, and all of the people at my church. And then after that, I spun a 30. So I had to spin again because I wanted to get towards $1. And then I remembered the people that I completely forgot about. And I said, oh, I also want to say hi to my brother. Hi, Doss. And then I forget again. And then I think, oh, and my dad. Hi, Dad. So I had to make sure to say hello to my dad and my brother. And then I spin a 35 the second time. I got 65. And the girl next to me, she spins and she hits a 35 the first time and then a 30. So I welcome her onto my mat as we are both standing there with 65s above our head. And the girl after us spins a 5 the first round. So I'm like, oh, we're going to do a spin off. Me and this lady, like we're about to go head to head. And then the second spin, this girl spins and she spins a 95. So she gets $1 on the wheel. That was my Price is Right experience.
That was most of it. I think Carly wants to remind everybody what happened the second day. We had this awesome experience on the first day of Cassidy getting called on.
First of all, I have to say, I am in the company via Zoom right now of 2 contestants on The Price is Right. So yeah, we went the next day because we were like, it's got to happen that either mom or I perhaps get called down. And well, we had a little bit. I was like, could happen. It was a fun day. We all have the pep rally spirit. We love some hype. And so we were dancing and grooving to music. And in between the takes of the show, they would break and Drew Carey would stay out on stage and quiz the audience and ask questions and just shoot the breeze with the members of the audience. And so that's where we were. And he zeroed in on Cassidy. And you might have to correct me on the story, or if you want to take over, you're more than welcome to.
I love to correct people on things, but keep going.
So he's talking. I don't know. How did he get to talking to you, Cassidy?
I'll jump in here for a second. Drew Carey is a great host of the show Price is Right. In between commercial breaks, though, it's not quite as clean as the show comes across on CBS, right? So it's not terribly
more like Whose Line.
It is a little more like Whose Line, a little more candid. There was some reference to drugs, just like things that people do as an adult if it's legal in California. Anyway, so he was talking about some things that none of the three of us are aware of.
They would allude to it. Yeah.
Yeah. He kept doing this thing where he would take his fingers and pull them up to his lips and take a drag. So anyway, he kept doing that like through the whole commercial break. And it wasn't something that any of us really were laughing at very much because we didn't quite get it. But he kept going with it. And then he zeroed in on Cassidy, and he met her in the previous day's recording, but she's got her name on her shirt, so he can call everybody by first name, So he's going, hey, Cassidy, are you going to hit up any bars today? Asking her questions about her plans for the rest of the time she's in Los Angeles, and if she's going to go to a bar. And then he wouldn't end his question. You're going to go to the bar, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. And Cassidy keeps starting to chime up with, well, I'm more, and she's not finishing her sentence. And all of us are like, oh, what is she going to say? What is she going to say in front of this whole crowd of 300 people who are not going to agree with us about where we stand on some of the references that Drew Carey is making? What is she going to say? Do you remember what you said, Cassidy, when he was talking about going to drink?
Whenever he asked if I was going to go to the bar, I kept saying, I'm more. And then I said, I'm more of a soda drinker.
Right. And the whole audience, it was amazing because they all heard her say this and they're all going, why isn't he asking me what I'm going to do? And Drew Carey, to you saying this comment about soda, replies, I've been sober for 3 years. I haven't had a drink of anything other than water for 3 years. I don't drink soda. I don't drink alcohol. And so here he'd been making all these references about drinking and drugs during this commercial break, but then he wasn't even doing it. He's like talking about how he's been sober and hasn't drank in years. And Cassidy, being the natural bright light that she is, was able to contribute her shining light to this audience of 300 plus people. And when Drew Carey said that he'd been sober, the whole audience started cheering together, clapping. And it became, from that point forward, the whole conversation just shifted. And it became almost like
this great lesson in
everyone
health.
started screaming hallelujah. They started running down.
It became a revival. We felt very at home in our Southern roots. Cassidy's one comment changed the trajectory of that commercial break. It was so fun to be in the presence of her saying that to Drew Carey and watching how everybody in the audience started cheering for Drew for being sober. And then the whole conversation changed. It was a fun thing. Carly, do you remember what happened to Cassidy at the end of the episode?
Well, I remember I went back because they'd asked her to stay back. And I was like, I'm going to look out for my younger sister here. So I'm like fly on the wall, watching from afar, something's going down. I don't know what. Then I couldn't get to her. And then she came out and she's like, yeah, they offered me a job.
I do remember that because they called me down. And also the other thing was that the reason why I thought I was getting called down from this girl in this red CVS jacket was because the day before when I got on Price is Right, my brain was still in such an elated state that I completely forgot a couple of details about myself that I needed to have in order to have the foosball table that I won sent to me. And so whenever she called me over, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to inform her of what it was that I needed to give to her. And then they were like, we actually just want to offer you a job. And that's whenever I was like, I'm 18.
They called her down and wanted to offer a job. That's just how happy she is. The whole episode ended the second day, which we were just there for kicks and giggles and the slight possibility that Mom or Carly might be called down. And then when that didn't happen, obviously we're all still happy because just to be there is a really fun experience that we highly recommend for a girls trip or a family vacation, anything. You've got people over 18 in your group, go to a taping of The Price is Right. It's so fun. And when you see people in there, having people encourage you to clap and be happy, they wanted Cassidy to have their jobs because Cassidy would do it a lot better than some of them do. No offense to them. They do a great job, but Cassidy is naturally happy pants. And that's why we have her on today's episode, because we really want to talk about how to incorporate and consciously choose joy in our lives.
She might be our younger sister, but we definitely look up to her in that regard because sometimes we can be a little dramatic or maybe less enthused by things. Cassidy's always been able to bring the joy to any environment, any situation.
I definitely learned it too from you two, because I know that hard times have come to both of you. And you guys have always stood firm, always been happy.
So Cass, with this jovial attitude that you have and you exude this very animated quality, sometimes that can be perceived as very youthful. Do you ever worry about not being taken seriously because of that?
It happens at some points, but that is just whenever I had to come to the realization that that's just a part of who I am. If people take it as childish, maybe it is because sometimes I do perceive things the way that a child would see them. And I think that is something that ended up actually being a perk for me because I used that to find a job working in pediatrics because I see things the way that little kids see things. And I'm happy the way a little kid would get happy at certain things. Whenever people say, oh, you need to not be childish about that, you need to have a different outlook, I simply just say, well, I'm sorry, but that's who I am. I can't change who I am.
I love how you literally help children smile. You're helping people smile. That's amazing.
I think it's funny, Cassidy, you mentioned that other people tell you to change your outlook. I doubt anybody's actually ever told you that because everybody who's around you enjoys your outlook. But I'm sure that is a little bit of a hard thing sometimes when you're aware that somebody might be thinking that. Carly, you shared a quote with me earlier this week. Could you share that quote now? And then I've got a question for Cassidy that has to do with this quote.
I really like an author named Bob Goff. He's written several really wonderful books. Love Does, Everybody Always, these books and stories that relate to how we can better share joy and love to other people. He has this great quote that says, when joy is a habit, love is a reflex. And that just means that when we strive to make something that we daily choose, then when we do have opportunities to show love, it comes more naturally, like a reflex would. As we were thinking through this episode with Cassidy, where we can pick her brain about how she does truly have that reflex of love for others, which I think is perfect for this Christmas season when we are sharing the love of Christ with others around us, that she would be on the show and tell us more about how she strives to do that.
Cassidy, with that thought that when joy is a habit, love is a reflex,
How have you made joy a habit in your life? Is it a conscious effort to make it a habit, or is it literally something that has just become instinctual for you?
For me, joy is just as much of a choice as it can be a habit. Whenever you choose to be joyful, and even if you have the hard days, you choose to find the good.
Some days it comes easier to have a joyful instinct. However, a lot of times, if there's work circumstances or schooling circumstances, that you do have to choose joy in that in different times. But whenever I do choose joy, it becomes a habit after a while.
Speaking of Cassidy choosing to be joyous, Cassidy has come and visited my family wherever we've lived. We've lived in a few different states throughout the desert Southwest. And when she would come and visit, one of my favorite things to do is just go shopping with her. One of my biggest memories is taking her to stores with me before I had kids. It was around the holiday time, and we were going from store to store doing some shopping and a couple of returns here and there. The memory I'm thinking of, we were in a smaller town, and so it was these little boutique shops. And I remember going to these stores, and every time we'd leave a store, Cassidy would yell back over her shoulder, "Have a nice day," to everyone, every shop that we'd go into. "Have a nice day, have a nice day, Merry Christmas." She was just so kind and so joyous. And I remember one store, they wouldn't accept the return I was trying to do. And she was like, "Have a nice day," as we're leaving. And I'm like, they didn't accept my return. Don't wish them a nice day. Like, oh, I'm just not quite as skilled in that ability to love others when they're not doing what I want them to do. Maybe I've got some control issues, but Cassidy is just genuinely somebody who loves other people. And even if it doesn't come naturally, it seems very natural. And I don't know if she forces herself to be kind. Cassidy, does it feel like a force? Or if there's people who aren't as easy to love, do you find yourself trying harder in those moments? I don't think you're confrontational. But do you have to bite your tongue, or do you just keep trying to be kind and say something nice when you're in an uncomfortable situation?
During those times, I usually just try to be nice and to see why that person is coming from where they're coming from. If they're upset a lot of the times, like with that one return lady, maybe it's not anything that she personally has a vendetta against you or me or anybody. It's just the fact that she's just an honest person just trying to get through her job. And a lot of times that's what I have to remind myself too, because as I'm also now facing adulthood, I come into more of those types of situations. Except now I just have to bite my tongue and then say, all right, well, that person deserves to have a better day than what they have been having. So maybe I can be that start.
With that goes into the call to action that we have for our sisters this week. We hope you sisters have enjoyed meeting the third sister in our family of origin, Cassidy, this week. She is such a bright light, and we've really loved having you on, Cassidy, and hope to have you on more in the future. But we want to end with a call to action for everyone to try that approach in your encounters over the coming week. Whenever you're talking to somebody, whether it's a stranger, an acquaintance, end the conversation with an uplifting message for them. Whether it's "have a nice day," "Merry Christmas," something that will keep them in good spirits. Might just be a short encounter that you're having with them, but end it in a positive way, on a positive note, so that both parties can leave feeling that little bit of a smile, because that is going back to Carly's quote that she shared from Bob Goff, choosing joy. I don't know, I'm going to butcher it. What was it, Carly?
When joy is a habit, love is the reflex.
Make joy that habit, because if you do it often enough, and it might feel a little forced, but you're still choosing joy and you're choosing kindness, and that might be exactly what somebody else needs, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of unhappy people who are probably saying really unkind things. Be that person who says something kind and uplifting at the end of a conversation. If somebody's bringing your groceries, if somebody's delivering your mail, if you're walking into a store to do a return, do your best to say something kind at the end of the conversation. Have a nice day. Merry Christmas.
Because you can get happy in the same pants you get mad in.
Amen, sister. Cassidy, what else do you have to add on this subject for our sisters before we take off?
Just exactly what you said. Be the change in somebody's life. You never know how much good you can do for somebody just simply by smiling at them, simply by saying, "Have a wonderful day," simply by asking them about their family. Maybe if you're working, I work a job where I'm constantly talking with people. And so people like to talk about themselves. People like to be friendly with people or just strike up conversation. So you never know if you are the only person in their day that actually was a light to them. So be the change, be the difference in the world.
Thank you so much, Cassidy. Don't forget your call to action this week in your encounters with other people and your conversations with an uplifting farewell message for everyone you talk to. Join us next week for episode 7, Mama Called the Doctor, with an awesome special guest we know y'all are going to love, who's going to share an uplifting message and help instill some confidence in you and in your decisions in these unprecedented healthcare times.
Love is the reflex. Not reflux, reflex.
Yeah, no reflux. I'll take it from here, Carly, if you want to go take care of baby and then come back.
I'll be back.
Okay. Keep your hands from like touching things. I felt like I was hearing some things moving around. So just a reminder, it's not a big deal.
I told Courtney to never listen to ASMR recordings. I think it would really drive her insane.
Yeah! All right, that's a wrap for today. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, sisters. Don't forget to follow us on our socials.